Good morning and welcome to SimWorld Today, an audio solo edition here on a Friday morning as we wrap up what was a eventful week in college basketball. I feel as if I'm saying an eventful week for pretty much every single week, but apologies that it's true, people. Apologies that it's true. All right, last night, we got plenty to get to today. We got Maryland's roller coaster season. We got some surprises in the Mountain West, but we got to start with what was maybe the game of the year. At least it was built up as such. Kentucky and Alabama in a huge tilt that had massive ramifications for the SEC, and it was Alabama at home getting a 73-66 win last night. They draw even atop the SEC standings. They make next week's matchup between Alabama and Arkansas all the more exciting. It is a even tilt right now between Alabama and Kentucky in terms of the head-to-head. So this is big because Alabama just needs to not lose twice the rest of the way. They need to make sure that they keep all of their losses to one game because Kentucky's sitting there at 20-5. The second tiebreaker because of that head-to-head now being even between Alabama and Kentucky. That second tiebreaker's overall record. And Alabama right now 22-3, Kentucky 20-5. So a lot at stake last night. My takeaway was Jamison Johnson just did not look comfortable. And I think there's, on some times when you see a guy go 5 of 20, we have this quick reaction to say, wow, this guy stunk. This guy didn't play good. Alabama, let's give them credit. They did a fantastic job of making him inefficient, right? You don't go 5 of 20 taking good shots. You go 5 of 20 because you're taking contested shots. At the same time, Jamison Johnson is an elite prospect. He's a guy that should be very comfortable in the paint. And there was just a inability from him to show up last night because that was the entire difference in this game. He was minus 13. That was tied for a team worst. There were multiple times I'm watching last night. He had DJ Childs on him at one point. And what does he decide to do? Decides to chuck up try to draw foul, hanging, not really a jumper, not really a layup type of shot, 7 feet from the hoop. Missed it. Tried to get inside. Got stuffed inside every time he went inside. Got good looks inside. Either didn't go up immediately with it, or when he did go up, he just kind of sputtered around and didn't take an aggressive shot. It was, I thought, a really, really disappointing night last night from Jamison Johnson, which when you go 5 of 10 should not be a surprise. It was stunning, though, despite that Kentucky was still in this game. You get an awful night from Jamison Johnson, and you still hang around and lose by just 7. Adonis Knight was fantastic. I continue to be a huge supporter of Adonis Knight. I said that from the beginning, that I thought that this is a group. I think Adonis Knight should be starting for this team. I stand by that. I don't know that it is a hot take, but it feels like it's a hot take that we're sitting here saying Adonis Knight should be starting. I thought that he should have been from the get-go. He did not start, but he took off. I mean, had a great night, 20 points in 22 minutes. The aggressiveness with which Adonis Knight plays is second to very few. Second, third, fourth to very few. I mean, he is a downhill threat. He hasn't been a great three-point shooter this season, but despite that, the fact that he's shooting 30% from deep on legitimate volume, 17 made, and is still shooting 51% overall. It shows just how aggressive he can be when he has the basketball in his hands and how explosive he can be. In 22 minutes, the freshman, 12 points, 3.5 boards, 2 assists. Why do I keep talking about Kentucky? It's not because I have some ill will towards them. It's because Alabama is just continuing to do Alabama things. I am not a big proponent of us saying stuff just to say stuff, right? And Alabama, what else do we have to say? They don't have a superstar. It doesn't matter. Rodrigo Falls was great last night. Dwan Epps is probably your superstar, right? If you're looking for, well, we need a guy that can carry us late in games, it's probably Dwan Epps. He had a great night last night. He was aggressive with the basketball. Alabama just has so many items they can throw at you. I continue to need to see either get the ball out of DJ Child's hands or find ways to get looks that are more more beneficial for him. 2 of 12 last night. He has had a really tough go of it this season for the Tide. All of that kind of beginning with that ankle injury. We'll see if that's really what's holding him back. But a rough night. But Alabama, you get the win. If I'm Kentucky, though, I'm walking out of this feeling confident that we can do something, considering your best player or second best player, depending on how you feel about Glory Tate. I'm going to say your best player went 5 of 20, and you still had spots in the last minute to get jumpers that would have cut it to one possession. That's a win if you can find a silver lining in the clouds on this one. All right, let's head out west, where the Zags and the Gales in the Mountain West have been struggling. Last night, the struggles continued, a pair of losses for both of them, with a huge opportunity to chase down UNLV. Instead, Gonzaga loses. They lose to New Mexico. St. Mary's loses. And now we've got a top two that's UNLV and San Diego State. And this was supposed to be the question mark year for both Gonzaga and St. Mary's, two teams that have dominated the West Coast Conference for years, for decades. I mean, Gonzaga built their entire brand off of, we're going to be a Cinderella team that has a conference we can win every single year, and that's what they did. They walked around, they walked through the West Coast Conference, and now they get the bump up. And was this a bump up talent-wise? Sure, Mountain West is a heck of a lot better, but the fact that Gonzaga has struggled to the way they have, 17-11 now overall in the season, 6-5, they're surely going to drop out of that 18 spot, but they've been in that 18, 17 to 24 range pretty much all season, that back end of the top 25. I don't think they leave that. I still think they remain in the top 25. But for both of these teams, I think many people expected them to walk in and be a heck of a lot better than they have been. And they haven't. UNLV has been fantastic in conference play, 8-3 now overall. That's after a pretty poor 7-10 start to the season in non-conference play. The Mountain West is better. So am I surprised by these struggles? Not necessarily. I'm surprised that it was maybe early on that we thought it would go otherwise, right? Because in retrospect, we should look at this and say, hey, Nevada won 30 games last season. You know, not that Nevada is showing that they're 8-20 overall. New Mexico won 30 games and won the NIT last season, right? San Diego State's been a team that's made runs into hoopsteria. UNLV is a pretty good basketball team with a really good top end piece in that group. This is not surprising because now the talent level's there. And Gonzaga's going to, and St. Mary's are going to have to find ways to bring in elite talent. They can't just rely on saying, don't worry, you come to us, you get 25 wins. You come to us, you get 30 wins. You're going to get a top 4 seed in Hoopsteria, and you're going to get to be playing March basketball. You're going to be playing April basketball. You're going to be playing championship level basketball. That's not a guarantee anymore. And so Gonzaga's going to have to find a way, and St. Mary's is going to have to find a way to say, and I say Gonzaga first just because they're the more traditional power, right? St. Mary's has always kind of been the little brother in the shadow. They're going to have to find a way now. You got to bring in bigger talent. And it's not that they haven't. Caden Shipp, former number 1 recruit in his class. This is a good basketball team. I still think Gonzaga can make some noise in the first round. They'll probably end up as about a 6 seed right now, 5 or 6 seed. It's going to be a tough first-round matchup, but you're probably looking at playing a team that might be sitting around 500, right? You might get I'm just looking at standings. You might get a Wisconsin who's 11-14. That's a challenging matchup for sure. You might get a team that's in the ballpark of a St. Mary's who's 15-14. They struggle down the stretch. They end up a little bit lower. You're going to have to revamp this recruiting strategy because the guarantee of 25 to 30 wins is simply not there for St. Mary's, and it's not there for Gonzaga. All right, let's head to Maryland. Maryland gets a win last night, a much-needed one. They moved now to 4-5 overall in conference play. It was a blowout win over Indiana on the road. But this has been a really challenging season to watch Maryland because they've got some good moments, right? Early season win against Kansas State. Kansas State's proven to be a pretty good squad. They've got the win over UNLV. They fared well against Mountain West competition. They beat UConn, who I still think is a sleeper. But at the same time, when the schedule is ramped up, this Maryland team has really not looked great, and it goes back. We saw the signs of it in early January, and it really picked up in February when they lost back-to-back games to Princeton and Villanova, two teams that are ranked either number 1 or above them in the top 25. And then they kind of fooled us. They go 5 straight wins. And since then, it's been up, down, up, down, up, down. 2 losses, 2 wins. 2 losses, 1 win. 2 losses, 1 win. The competition level, to me, when I look at this group, there's major concerns about the rest of this roster, which should not be a surprise. Cooper Kingy-Cross is a great basketball player. He's a Player of the Year candidate. He's not going to win it. He's a number 1 overall pick candidate. I think he could be it. But the rest of this roster just simply isn't there. And that's what's showing up to me when they're going up against teams like Maryland, like Illinois. I'm just looking at their recent losses, like Michigan, like Minnesota. The games where the other team just has, their number 2 is just a little bit better than yours, right? There's going to be very few matchups in which Cooper Kingy-Cross is not the best basketball player on the floor. The problem is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th tend to be on the opposite side. And so Maryland, who's been ranked in the top 25, I think a lot of that is being carried by the fact that they are carried by a number 1 guy that's really good in Cooper Kingy-Cross. But if you look around, who are the unranked teams that should get in there, Maryland's track record is still better, right? They're 15-9. And this stuff, we've talked about this before. That difference between the team 20-25 and then 26-35, there's really not a lot there, right? I mean, who would you replace in the top 25 right now with Maryland? UNLV at 15-13. I mean, they've definitely been playing better basketball. Dayton at 15-12. I mean, those teams both have fewer losses than Maryland. Jackson State at 16-11. Are we tossing them in there? I mean, these are viable people to replace. Texas A&M at 15-13. Every single team pretty much in the Pac-12. Utah, Cal, USC, who are all 4 to 5 games above 500. That's the realm of teams that they're around, and I don't think any of us would sit here and say, you know who I really like in Hoopsteria is USC, 15-11. I love what they're bringing us. We're not doing that. I'm not going to sit here and say I love Iowa, who's lost 5 in a row without Lamarian Sherwood, who I would expect an update from. That's what we're missing right now from Maryland is consistency, because they're in this big group of teams that have, I think, better rosters, but they aren't carried by a group or a player like Cooper Kingy-Cross. So for Maryland, this up and down, I think, is more indicative of who this roster is. When they get good nights from somebody else, they win basketball games. Last night, that's what happened. When they don't get good nights from somebody else, and they sit there and say, hey, Coop, could you, I don't know, bail us out a little bit here, man? We're kind of struggling. We're not playing that great. You think you could step up and do a little something for us? He says, yeah, I'll give you 24, 6, and 2. I'll hit 4 3-pointers on Indiana, who hasn't been that great either. Yeah, I got you. But when he doesn't do that, and you don't get 13 points, 12 points, 12 points from your next 3 best scorers, near double-doubles from VJ George and Keith Anthony, we're in trouble. We're the Terps, and we're in trouble. And that's what they're going to have to figure out. I would expect them to be maybe a 7 or 8 seed, and I would not be shocked at all if we said them bounced in the opening round, considering how they've played against competition that's at or slightly above their level. All right, that's our show. We are obviously coming back to you next week. We've got an exciting week ahead of basketball. But, of course, the big one is the McDonald's All-American game. That is Saturday at 1 p.m. on ESPN, the 4-letter behemoth. 1 p.m. on ESPN, McDonald's All-American game, the best of the best in SimWorld Prep. Big games, though, ahead in college basketball. We've got Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech tonight, Friday, with a lot of implications in the ACC before we roll back through a pivotal week next week. Conference championship game races lining on up. That's our show. Appreciate you tuning in here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.